Greetings gastronauts, this is KeefCooks, I'm Keef, and today, well, we've got Halloween coming up, so I'm going to do a pumpkin pie. And I've had a request to do this from Mrs. KeefCooks, who's, like me, she's never had a proper pumpkin pie, so yeah, it's about time we've found out what all the fuss is about. And also, shout outs to my 3 new Patreon fans. Yay! Kristin Varady, Carl Tyson, and Coe Bellier, I think. Anyway, welcome guys, thank you, appreciate it. Now, when I was a kid, Halloween was almost nothing. It was just, you know, a thing that happened, but there was no big deal about it because we were actually more excited about the prospect of playing with fireworks on the 5th of November. However, times have changed and Halloween is a massive thing now and you've got to have pumpkins. So, I've got pumpkins. Pumpkin pie. Let's do it. So this time of year, the shops are full of these things, pumpkins, for making jack-o'-lanterns out of. And I thought, well, I might do that, but also I can use the insides to make pumpkin pie and not waste it. But apparently these are rubbish for eating. The insides are stringy and watery and just meh, but the outsides look wonderful. So what you need is one of these, which looks quite a lot less wonderful, but is described as a culinary pumpkin. So, so I shall make pumpkin pie with this, and I'll make a jack-o'-lantern with that. So it seems that making your own pumpkin puree isn't a thing that really happens a lot in America, because you get it in cans made by Libby's. But yeah, we don't have that, because really in the UK, pumpkin pie, meh, we just don't get it really. And anyway, so got to make my own puree, and what you need to do is roast this first. So you want your oven on 180 degrees Celsius if it's a fan oven, or 200 Celsius if it isn't. Okay, so let's just get the label off there and cut this in half. Oh, and the other thing, alongside these in the supermarket, they also had a lot of butternut squash, which you can use instead of these if you want. So then your pumpkin pie contains no pumpkin and isn't a pie anyway, really. Ugh. Yeah. Oh, that is so appealing. So we need to scoop these fibres and seeds out. Pumpkin seeds. You can eat those, can't you? Maybe I'll save them. Oh, well, that was a bit of an effort. So put them skin side up in a roasting tin, a couple of tablespoons of water, and put that in the oven for about 30 minutes until the flesh is tender. Right, there's my roasted pumpkin. Doesn't seem to be a huge amount there, but I'll just let that cool down and then sort of peel it and scoop out the actual flesh. Okay, now it's cool enough to handle, so we just scrape the flesh off the skin, which is not too difficult. Okay, actually there's quite a lot more than I expected there, so we'll pop it in the jug for the stick blender and puree it. Right, now you need to drain it. Doesn't actually seem that wet, but recipes I've looked at are very insistent that you have to get as much moisture out as you can, otherwise you'll end up with a very soggy pumpkin pie, and we don't want that. So I've got a bit of muslin cloth, cheesecloth in a colander, and we'll just tie that up, hang it up over a bowl, well, until it stops dripping, I suppose. Now we're going to need a pie crust, and for that you'll need pastry, or buy a ready-made pie crust or ready-made pastry. I don't do those things because I like things to be difficult, so I'm making my own pastry. This is a sweet short crust. So I've got 150 grams of plain all-purpose flour, 50 grams of caster sugar, possibly powdered sugar, and 100 grams of cold butter straight from the fridge. Also a pinch of salt and 2 eggs. So you want to grate your butter. This is starting to warm up already, doesn't matter too much. Sift your flour and sugar together. Use a bigger bowl if you don't want to get it everywhere, and add your pinch of salt. Just stir that together. Pop the grated butter in, and now you want to rub the butter into the flour and sugar mix. Just use your fingertips, just kind of rub it in until you get a mixture that looks like breadcrumbs. Now you want to break your eggs into a bowl and smash them up a bit and pop them in, and then just stir it together. Tip it out onto your worktop because it'll need a little bit of kneading. Not kneading like bread, just, you know, just to bring it together properly. And then wrap that in plastic film and stick it in the fridge for about, I don't know, half an hour to rest. Okay, pastry's chilled, man. And we need to blind bake it, which means, you know, to partially bake it so that the wet, or the, you know, the moist filling doesn't give you a soggy bottom. Innuendo alert. So I'm going to use this little tin. I'm using it because it's nice and deep, and it's 18 centimeters, 7 inches, and I've buttered the inside because I'm like that. So you just want to roll your pastry out into a disc that's less than 1/4 of an inch, about 2 or 3 millimeters thick. Just roll it over your rolling pin and then drape it over your baking tin. Gently make sure it's in all the corners. They're not really corners, but you know what I mean. And then trim off the excess and just press it together to make it neat. And you need to just stab the bottom with a fork because that will stop it puffing up. Then line it with some crumbled up greaseproof paper, parchment paper, and fill that with the weighing down medium of your choice, baking beans or dried beans or rice. I always use rice because it's finer, and you know, it can get into the sharp bits better. So for the first bit of the blind bake, that goes in the oven for 10 minutes. So after 10 minutes, get the crust out of the oven and remove the baking thing and pop that back in for another 10 minutes. Okay, there's the blind bake case, and that needs to cool down a little bit until you can get it out of the tin, and then put it on a wire rack and let it cool down completely. Now we need to make up the filling. I've got my pumpkin puree, there's about 250 grams there. I've also got some bonus pumpkin juice, every underage wizard's second favourite drink after butterbeer. And I've got 100 grams of granulated sugar, 65 grams of light brown demerara sugar, and 2 eggs. And also 1.5 teaspoons of ground cinnamon, a teaspoon of ground ginger, and 1/2 teaspoon of ground cloves. So we need the blender, the big one. And I forgot to mention 200 mils of evaporated milk. So we just pop everything in there, apart from the pumpkin juice. I'm not touching that. Ploosh. Don't forget to put the lid on. Okay, so we'll smoothie it. And when your pastry case is cool enough, we can assemble it and bake it. Right, we're ready to bake the pumpkin pie. So I've got the oven preheating to 160 degrees Celsius, because it's a fan oven, or 180 if it isn't. Now, here's my cooled pumpkin pie filling, and here's my blind baked crust. Continuity freaks will notice it isn't the same crust that I made earlier. It's another one, because the first one just kind of fell apart when I tried to trim off the edge, because this pastry is so short you can't easily or neatly cut it, so I made another one. There you go. Right, just pop the filling in the case. Ooh. And that needs to bake for 30 to 40 minutes. So I'll check it after 30 and see what's happening. And that's still a bit runnier in the middle, or wobblier than I would like, so I'll give it another 5 or 10 minutes. That looks great. That's just what we want. There we go. That's looking pretty fab. So I'll let that cool down for a little bit, then I'll plop it in the fridge for a couple of hours to set completely, and then we can try pumpkin pie. So I'm just about to taste test the pumpkin pie, and I'm just going to make up some chantilly cream. So you want some double cream, heavy cream, that's about 150 ml, and you want some sugar, caster sugar, powdered sugar, about 50 grams, and some vanilla essence. That much. And you just whip it. Whip it good. And after a few minutes it'll go thick like that. That's it. Chantilly cream. Fantastic. Okay, pumpkin pie taste test. I could mention at this point that I've never had pumpkin pie before, and I'm not a big fan of squash type things, so I'm being very brave. And oh, that's actually really nice. I think it's the spices that really make it happen, because I don't know what pumpkin tastes like, but well, it tastes like cinnamon and cloves and the other thing. Pumpkin pie, fantastic.
And that's that. I hope you enjoyed it. Now please do the usual: likes, shares, comments, subscriptions, donations, patronage, all that good stuff, or just some of it. And thank you for watching, and see you next time.